Hello everyone, in this video we will discuss about the types of visas for Saudi Arabia. There are different type of visas for Saudi Arabia, but two visas which I know, one is construction worker visa and the second one is loading and unloading visa. These two are the professions which I know. My cousin uses construction worker visa while I use loading and unloading visa. So what kind of visas you should go for? It depends on your budget. Different visas cost differently. For example, there are some visas which have vendor code. I will explain in my next session what kind of visa you should go for. So it depends on your budget. Different visas cost differently. For example, there are some kind of visas which have vendor code. So vendor code visas cost too much. I will explain in my next session what vendor code is. For now, you should know these two visas, construction worker and loading and unloading visa, are good for you. Construction worker visa and loading and unloading visa typically cost around 10,000 Saudi Riyal. Personally, my visa cost 10,200 Riyal, while the visa which have vendor code may cost around 18,000 SAR, and you have to pay 18,000 annually for renewal. While for construction worker visa and loading and unloading visa, you should just pay only 5,000 or 5,500 Saudi Riyal annually for renewal. So you should keep in mind that the visa which you will get will be valid for 15 months, and there is an option you can get a visa which valid only for 6 months, but that cost almost half the amount of the visa which is valid for 1 year. So if a visa is valid for 1 year, it will cost you 5,500, and the visa which is valid only for 6 months may cost around 3,000 SAR. So what should you look for when applying for a visa? You should look for two things. One is called Ajir and the second one is Chamber. So some people look for vendor code as well, but vendor code it's very costly, so you don't need to go for vendor code visas. So what is vendor code? Vendor code is actually the kind of companies which are registered with Aramco or Saudi National Organization. So that kind of visas are actually required for big companies. So if you are a newcomer, you don't need to go for vendor code visas. While two documents you should look for while applying for a visa, one is Chamber and the other one is Ajir. So Chamber is a kind of documentation contract between the employee and the company, while Ajir is an online same thing, but it is a computerized work, a contract between the employee or supplier and the company. So for example, you are hired by a company, the company will ask for Chamber and Ajir. So Chamber will be a documentation work between the supplier through which you are entering the company, while Ajir is an online contract. The purpose is same, but one is documentation work while other includes computerized or online work. So whom should you buy visa from? I would personally suggest to buy a visa from someone who is your relative. The reason is there are a lot of problems like this, the agents sometimes don't give you the ikama, or they even delay the ikama. Ikama is like a national ID for you, and it works in Saudi Arabia the same as the national card in your country. Here we use a ikama. So sometimes they delay your ikama, sometimes they don't, they charge extra for ikama. So I would personally suggest to buy a visa from a relative. The reason is, as I explained, you can ask them why they delay your visa, you can ask them why you should pay for extra money. So these kind of issues happen. So that's it for today's video, and see you in the next video. Thank you.